Assalamu alaikum, Faizan Saab, how are you?
Alaikum salam, Bilal Sahib. Alhamdulillah, I've been well. How are you keeping?
Alhamdulillah, I'm okay. So Faizan Saab, just tell the audience, a bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So my name is Faizan Ahmed. I'm 23 years old, almost 24 now. I run a consulting firm which specializes in raising finance for small and medium enterprises in a range of different industries, technology, capital markets, fintech, and sort of technological companies that we work with.
Okay. So Faizan Saab, just take us back to where it all started. So where did you get this interest in business from, and kind of where did it take you?
So I was quite young when my interest in business peaked. I think between my A levels and university, I took a gap year to sort of explore more. I thought I wasn't quite prepared to go university straight away. I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what I was doing. For some people, it might be different, but for me, I got an understanding that I am very much in line with the principles of running business or being part of business and developing a business. So I had enrolled into university at Brunel University, studying international business and economics. When I started university, that is when sort of the idea of many different businesses came into mind. It was as such where every new day you wake up and you look at things around you and you say, oh wow, you could make a business out of that, or there is so and so solution that could be made from this sort of problem. And so you'd come up with this eureka moment, and then you'll try to break it down, and you realize that either you have a competitor in the market that's doing tremendously well, or the solution requires a massive amount of resource. So you give it up until I did come across an idea which was initially a tech startup, and it was focused in camera technology, and it would allow you to take a picture of what you're looking at and tell you what it is. But that gave me a lot of experience. But whilst being at university, I was able to sort of work with people who are at the university. A lot of university have sort of innovation hubs and incubators, and there are people especially with my university, there were business schools who had expertise in different sort of areas. But I was running that business for about 2.5 years. But I realized that there was a very big challenge, and this challenge was of raising finance. And even when I was a student, I took sort of help from a lot of different resources. One of them being our very good Sanato Tijarat team in the Jamaat, which is then was being run by AMSA. And I realized this challenge, it was big because people had made it big because of the lack of knowledge. So once I had raised capital and I had gone through that challenge and that hurdle, I realized that it was massively just a knowledge gap, and to perform certain actions in order to achieve raising capital. And we know that once you've raised capital, once you've raised finance, you have money in the bank account, it really does help you grow your business. So yeah, from there on, once I realized that this was a challenge and it was a problem that I could solve, I started a consulting firm which basically specializes in helping companies to raise finance. We take them from a stage of growth, and when they are ready to raise finance, we start working with them and make sure that they are investor ready. And so I've been running that for the last almost 3 years.
Okay, mashallah. So quite an inspiring story. Not everyone gets to say that they started a business in university. So just before we get onto that, you said that you took a gap year.
Yes.
So that's not common either. So many people might have different ideas after they've finished their A levels of what they might want to do. So would you recommend the gap year to everyone? Who would you recommend it for? And what did you get out of your gap year?
Sure. So I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. I think it varies between person to person, and ultimately, I think in most students they come across a decision making time sort of twice. Once it's between GCSEs and A levels, and then it's after A levels when you need to go on to university. You've got to decide sort of what sort of career path or line of study you want to sort of go into. And I think for the people who were not sure on the decision they wanted to take or the career path they want to go down after GCSEs, sometimes they choose A levels, which they love studying. So there are people who have a keen interest in geography or history, and once they've studied it, they enjoyed it, and then they start to understand whether they have a career path from it. I think that is when taking a gap year is quite important. But I think it's important, especially for those people who aren't quite aware of what it is they want to do on a sort of practical term. Because from my understanding, it was as such where uh, as students we don't really take a year-long gap from primary school. We go through years 1 to 6, and then straight from 7 to 11, and then straight away to A levels, and so we never get that gap to experience outside. And in those gap years, I did part-time jobs. I took a trip to West Africa for Wakriarzi, and there were a lot of different things that I was doing, and it helped me realize that it was more to do with the fact that I realized what I didn't like compared to what I did like. So this perception that, oh, you know what, I might be, for me, I thought I would be very interested in working in a chemical laboratory, and then only that I realized afterwards of shadowing people in laboratories that I didn't like it. And so I think it's only for those people who are not quite sure. It does provide a very hands-on experience to practically work on yourself and self-reflect and understand what you like and what you dislike. But ultimately, I think it's very important for people who aren't quite sure and they need to understand further.
Right. Okay. So another point that you touched upon, well, you didn't touch upon, but I think we can touch upon it now, is the fact that you actually started your business during university, whilst you were studying, and that's very uncommon. Other people that have done that are Mark Zuckerberg and other great people, tech experts like that. So, what challenges did you face, and kind of just explain why you took the initiative to start a business during university?
Sure. So for me, I stumbled across this idea, and to me, I put a lot of thought into whether this is actually a viable business idea. And I had a few different conversations with people who connected me with other people, and they said that this business idea has mileage in it. There's a lot you can do before you actually need to start raising money, and there's a lot you can do by yourself. Um, I was I wasn't a developer, I wasn't a programmer at the time, and so that was sort of a big hurdle for me. But I had people around me and friends who were programmers, and they were able to help me. The biggest challenge that I came across was time. I wasn't going to give up my university education just for a business idea that just popped into my head. I continued my university degree, I graduated, but during this time, the biggest challenge was timing, because you have to balance both. But also, I think a lot of people who come up with business ideas at university, they often they lack the time to work on it. But more importantly, it's sort of the trade-off is that if you're working on a business which isn't going to pay you straight away, you're trading off maybe working a part-time job for extra finance. So there is that challenge, and there is a bit of sacrifice with that. And then alongside that, obviously you have obligations with Jamaat work and whatnot. So there is a lot of there are trade-offs to it, but ultimately you have to sort of evaluate and prioritize your time as to where it's best spent.
Yeah, okay. So kind of time management has been a key theme throughout all of this,
Massively.
isn't it?
Oh,
So
massively. I think
even,
yes.
yeah. So even during your gap year, I'm assuming time management played a big role in, because you have a lot of time on your hands,
Yeah.
1 year all to yourself. It's kind of managing that time and making sure you're using it effectively plays a big role in what you can achieve out of it.
Yes,
So,
definitely. What I would say is when it came down to myself, I prioritized what I need to do in my gap year and what I want to do in my gap year. And for me, I knew that I needed to get a part-time job to sort of fund myself. I knew that I had to get experience in different areas, in different industries, but I wanted to do my work for RZ and I wanted to travel. So I have to evaluate which one was more important and when everything needs to take place. I think it's very important that you plan your gap year before you actually make the decision to get into a gap year as to what are you going to do in that time, because it's not just an academic year that you're taking out, it's actually one full year, because you'll be sometimes more than a year, because you will finish your A levels in say June, and then you have until next year, maybe September or October. So it's actually more than a year. So you've got to really structure it out and plan it to say that, look, this is all the things I need to do, and these are all the things I want to do. Sometimes you can do them simultaneously. Sometimes it requires phases where you might be traveling for 2 or 3 months, and that might block out everything. And then other times you could be doing experience in one area and a part-time job in another. So ultimately, I think for me, it was prioritizing the needs and the wants, and then structuring it out and making a plan beforehand.
Yeah, okay. Um, so going back to, university, um, what prospects did your business and economics course give you? And do you still think it's worth people doing business and economics courses or any courses that are related to finance? Do you think it's worth going to uni?
I think, I'm a massive advocate of people going to university. And I think there is this false perception that people that run their own businesses are sort of anti-university thinking. But I'm a massive advocate of university because there is a lot of prospects. Because the situation, even with whether that's an economic situation, whether that's a situation regarding the pandemic that we're going through as well, a university degree gives you options, and it gives you more than one option. One degree does not lead to just one career path. I know of many examples in our Jamaat, outside our Jamaat as well, where people have done the same degree as me, and more times than not, people think that if you've done a degree in business and economics, it lands you a business analyst role or a financial analyst role, or you're in business development or something of that nature. But there is a lot more out there that people are unaware of, and I do believe that people need to explore more. For me, when I was studying, my prospects were alternative to my business was that I could go down the route of being a financial analyst or being a business analyst. It could be that I was strategically consulting for consulting firms. I could be involved in marketing teams or business development teams. Those are sort of the prospects, but there are other prospects like project management that people don't come across, and leadership roles that people are unaware of that might be there. But also there are many spin-offs from different degrees that people are also unaware of. It takes one short course or 2 or 3 conversations and picking up a few skills for your degree to set the foundation for a great spin-off idea. I have a good friend who has done a very similar degree to me, and he's now programming for a very large organization, and he loves what he does. So there are a lot of different prospects from going to university. I'm a massive advocate of it, and not only that, I do believe that anyone who's young and watching this, and if they're in their first year of university or they're planning to go to university and they want to run a business at some stage, I wouldn't neglect university at all. There are more resources at university than outside of university, which will actually help you pick up the skills or even help you grow your business. So yes, definitely, I'm definitely not anti-university. I'm very pro-university. Definitely do believe that people should not neglect the side of business for university.
Yeah, okay. So just on that, you kind of talked about networking, and that's kind of based in a certain mindset, isn't it? So people of a certain mindset will kind of network more than others. So what mindset do you think is kind of more business oriented, or what mindset do you think is beneficial for a career like the career you have?
So naturally, I'm quite extroverted. I like talking to people, but at the same time, I think um, there is an art of networking, and the mindset should. For me, I'm always quite optimistic about things. People often confuse a realistic mindset to a more pessimistic mindset, but I've always been quite optimistic as to what something can be achieved from a situation. Uh, but in terms of mindset, if people want to run their own businesses, they need to have a very, very strong mindset and a very open perspective on things, because you come across people of all walks of life and backgrounds, and often these people, you tend to have a relationship with them if they're helping you work on your business, and you've got to respect sort of the background they come from, and therefore, because of that, you've got to have that open mindset. You've got to think about making sure that you aren't just running your business with your own mindset, and more sort of understanding that one person can offer you more than one thing. Sometimes the job title of a person does not reflect what they can offer you in terms of in your business. But I think networking is also an art. I think that people who do network effectively are not those who try to pitch you a business or a sales pitch straight away. I think networking is more sort of building rapport with the person and understanding who they are, what they do. And I think it's more about being a fit rather than trying to fit in. Often more times than not, you find that, there are people who will realize that, this person can find me investment, he can find me money for my business, and therefore I'm going to, fire a sales pitch at him. But more times than not, if you get to know me, there is a lot of free advice available, which people in my position and myself, we just give it out, and sometimes that can be the spark. So I think the open mindset is very, very open, is very, very beneficial to have in running your business. But having said that, I've also come across people who are introverted and very creative, who have run tremendous businesses as well.
Yeah, okay. So how can we spend our time effectively during this time? We're in an unprecedented time right now,
Sure.
where we have a lot of time on our hands. Many of us, we might have exams, but after that, definitely, we're going to find ourselves with a lot to do, or a lot of time, but not
Sure.
a lot to do. So how did you spend your time effectively during your time in your gap year, and how can we learn from that?
Sure. So of course, this time is unprecedented, and we pray that, inshallah soon, it passes over. And it's very tragic that people who have loved ones who are passing away because of this pandemic, and it's very unfortunate. But I think there are people who currently have a lot of time on their hands, and for students especially who have exams, some people are quite uncertain whether they have exams or they don't have exams, and should they be studying, should they not be studying. I think when it comes to that, they should be very much focused on communicating with their educational institution as to what is happening. But when you have so much time on your hands, I think there is no set way of doing things. Everyone is very different, but I think for me, what I've learned from having time in my hands, especially the fact that we're in a phase of lockdown right now, and leaving your house and being very practical isn't quite available. What I've done is I have prioritized and self-reflected, just not just morally, but also professionally, understanding that these are sort of things that I've always had pending, and I've never done them because I've been too busy. Whether that's reading a certain book, or I've realized that there is a skill set that I'm really interested in that I really want to pick up. Now, people often don't share very practical advice, but for a lot of students that are watching, if you have time in your hands and you are not in a course that requires you to study for exams and its assignments, I do recommend that you guys log on to. There are a couple of websites. One is Udemy, one is Udacity. These guys provide courses which are currently very much industry specific, and they give you the knowledge of what is currently a very employable skill. Stuff like programming is a very difficult skill, but you can pick it up and work with it. Project management, understanding digital transformation, data science, data mining. There is a whole bunch of business skills like financial analysis. There is understanding new technology like blockchain. There's a lot of courses out there. There's a lot of knowledge out on the internet with these courses, and these courses aren't very expensive. Udemy is, I think, something like 11 or 12 pounds for a course which is very, very comprehensive. And if you have time in your hands, I think going into and researching, reading certain books which give you knowledge is very, very important. And then if you want to extend that knowledge further, pick up a course online. There are some very, very good courses for free on YouTube as well that I found. But I think ultimately it starts from you making a list of understanding what it is that you want to improve on or pick up or grow into, and then finding out what resources are available, whether that's paid or it's free, and really engaging yourself and structuring your day and saying that, look, today I'm going to be doing this, this, and this, and then I will do this for the next week or two, and then hopefully I can finish off and test myself and, have that skill set. So when this lockdown, inshallah, does finish off, it is something that you can take into industry with you and say that, look, I actually have this skill. But ultimately, I think, there is that side of things where students should be studying and whatnot, but there is also that side where I think that, just to make sure that things aren't going off track, I think it's important to take some time out, self-reflect, maybe chill a little bit, if not too much, but it's very, very important to make sure that your mind is active and you're continuously sort of feeding it more knowledge.
Yeah, and I think we also forget that we all have an example in the khulafa of the time, and also the khulafa of the past. They've always been teaching us how to use our time effectively, and obviously they are the best at using their time effectively as well. So I think it's also important. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean, if we look at the our present Khalifa, we see, if we look at how there are many videos on MTA about how he structures his day and what he does, and even his secretary has sometimes given insights into this, that his day is very much confined to meeting people, leading prayers, and doing a lot of work in the office. So and the way the Khilafat has worked is, considered Khilafat has always been where our Khalifa has lived. So technically speaking, he has always been working from home, right? And so if we follow that example, we can see that he has a very, very exemplar work ethic, one that not many humans can match. And if we learn from him, we know that he has structured his entire day around namaz. He will start his day with Fajr, and then afterwards you start getting to work. He knows that the mulaqats are after Maghrib, and he finishes his day after Isha. And so during those times, he will lead Zohar and Asr. And so during this time, if we structure our day around our 5 prayers, you can find that structuring the day becomes so much more easier. Having a very abstract day can sometimes lead to inactivity and procrastination.
Yeah. So I think having those kind of 5 pillars that we can structure our day upon is very important. And I think that's kind of a great place to end on. So Jazakallah for all of your time.
Sure,
We hope to see you again soon on this isolation interview show.
Jazakallah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.